"We're renovating your childhood room for the baby," my sister Sarah said, standing in my doorway with paint samples fanned out like playing cards. I stared at her from my desk, where I'd been reviewing client files for tomorrow's accounting work. 25 years old, still living at home, paying $2,600 monthly rent to my parents. "Where am I supposed to sleep?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Dad appeared behind Sarah, shrugging with the casual indifference of someone discussing weekend weather. "Figure it out, family expands." Those 4 words shattered something inside me I didn't know existed. The house fell silent around midnight as I sat on my childhood bed, staring at walls covered with faded baseball posters and academic achievement certificates. 3 years of paying rent in my own family home suddenly felt surreal, like discovering you've been living in someone else's dream. My parents had convinced me to stay after graduation, claiming they desperately needed financial help following my father's business troubles. Bob's construction company had supposedly hit rough patches during the economic downturn, and they painted a picture of family solidarity against financial hardship. I pulled suitcases from my closet, methodically folding clothes while memories flooded back. The day I handed over my first rent payment, Mom had tears in her eyes, thanking me for being such a responsible son. She'd hugged me tight, whispering about how proud they were that I understood family obligations. Dad had clapped my shoulder, saying, "Real men step up when times get tough." The words felt genuine, then warm with familial love and shared responsibility. But now, packing in darkness, I remembered details that hadn't seemed important before. Last Christmas, Mom had casually mentioned their vacation to Hawaii, showing off photos of pristine beaches and luxury resort rooms. When I'd asked how they afforded such an expensive trip during financial difficulties, she'd laughed it off as an early retirement gift to themselves, paid for with airline miles and careful budgeting. The explanation satisfied me then, because I wanted to believe my family was finding happiness despite struggles. The garage held evidence I'd ignored. Dad's workshop had been completely renovated 6 months ago with professional-grade tools and custom storage systems. When neighbors complimented the impressive setup, he'd beam with pride about finally having a proper workspace. I'd felt happy for him, assuming business had improved enough to justify the investment. Now the timeline felt calculated, deliberately deceptive. Loading my truck under streetlight glow, I calculated the mathematics of betrayal. $2,600 monthly for 36 months equaled $93,600. Enough for a substantial house down payment in most American cities. Enough to start my own accounting practice. Enough to build the independent life I'd sacrificed to help family. My phone buzzed with messages from Jake, my college roommate, who'd offered his couch weeks ago during a casual conversation about apartment hunting. "Emergency," I texted back. "Need that couch tonight." His response came immediately. Doors unlocked, spare blankets in hall closet. Driving through empty streets toward Jake's apartment, I replayed the evening's conversation. Sarah's casual announcement felt rehearsed, like she'd practiced the words. Dad's dismissive response suggested prior discussion, not spontaneous decision-making. They'd planned this moment probably for months, waiting for the right time to execute their eviction strategy. Jake met me in his parking lot, wearing pajama pants and genuine concern. He helped carry boxes without asking questions, understanding that explanations would come when I was ready. His small apartment felt like sanctuary, compared to the emotional minefield I'd escaped. We sat on his kitchen stools at 2 a.m, drinking coffee while I explained the situation. "Oh man, that's messed up," Jake said, shaking his head. $2,600 a month. My mortgage payment is less than that." He paused, studying my face. "You realize they've been making serious money off you, right? That's not family help, that's exploitation." His words confirmed suspicions I'd been suppressing. Family loyalty had blinded me to obvious financial manipulation. My parents had created a rental income stream while maintaining moral authority over my living situation. They'd positioned themselves as generous providers while actually profiting from my housing needs. Morning brought harsh reality. Apartment hunting in our expensive California city revealed what I should have known years ago. $2,600 monthly could secure a nice one-bedroom apartment in several decent neighborhoods. I'd been paying market rates to live under my parents' control, enjoying none of the independence that money could have purchased. The first 3 landlords I contacted had waiting lists. Property management companies required extensive documentation credit checks and first month's rent plus security deposits. Having lived at home for 3 years, I lacked recent rental history that some landlords preferred. The process felt overwhelming after years of simplified living arrangements. Around noon, Jake called from work with unexpected news. "Dude, there was a contractor's truck at your parents' house this morning. Big renovation company logo on the side. Thought you should know." His voice carried implications I wasn't ready to process. Renovation work meant significant expense money my family supposedly didn't possess. Curiosity overtook pride. I called the contractor directly, pretending to be my father, checking on project timeline. The conversation revealed information that made my stomach drop. "Mr. Williams, yes, we're starting demo work tomorrow. Timeline looks good for completing everything within 3 weeks, assuming no structural surprises. Oh, and our accounting department needs to schedule the payment plan for the $35,000 invoice. When would be convenient to discuss financing options?" $35,000 for room renovation while claiming financial hardship. The number echoed in my mind as pieces of a deceptive puzzle clicked into place. My monthly rent payments hadn't been helping struggling parents, they'd been funding luxury home improvements. Jake's spare bedroom became my temporary command center as I began investigating my family's true financial situation. My accounting training kicked in, applying forensic skills I'd learned auditing small business clients. If my parents had deceived me about money, documentation would reveal the scope of their manipulation. I started with my own banking records, requesting 3 years of transaction history. The statements told a clear story: $2,600, transferred monthly to my father's account with religious precision. Never late, never short, always accompanied by my hopeful notes about contributing to family welfare. The consistency of payments proved my reliability as a son, which made their betrayal feel more acute. My childhood memories painted Dad as struggling with his construction business, but county records told different stories. The courthouse database showed Williams Construction had secured multiple municipal contracts over the past 2 years, including a significant school district renovation project worth over $200,000. The timeline coincided perfectly with my rent payments, suggesting business success rather than financial struggle. Public property records revealed additional surprises. My parents had refinanced their house twice in recent years, each time pulling equity from rising property values. The current mortgage balance was surprisingly low considering their supposed financial hardships. Instead of struggling with payments, they'd been strategically accessing home equity for unknown purposes. Marcus Chen had been my closest childhood friend before we drifted apart during college. Now working as a private investigator specializing in financial crimes, he agreed to help examine my family's public records. His professional access to databases and research methods could uncover information unavailable to general public searches. "Fred, this is messed up," Marcus said, spreading documents across Jake's kitchen table. "Look at these property transfers. Your parents purchased a rental duplex 8 months ago for $400,000. Down payment was $80,000 cash. Where do you think that money came from?" The timeline created an obvious connection. 8 months of my rent payments totaled $20,800, but my parents had accumulated money from previous months to fund their investment property purchase. They'd used my housing payments to build wealth while manipulating me with poverty stories. Marcus pulled up additional records on his laptop. "Check this out. They've been claiming tax deductions for rental property expenses, but also claiming mortgage interest deductions on this house. Either they're making money from both properties, or they're committing tax fraud. Probably both. The evidence mounted systematically. Property tax records showed reassessed values indicating significant home improvements over the past 3 years. Permit records revealed not just Dad's workshop renovation, but also kitchen upgrades, bathroom remodeling, and backyard landscaping projects. Each permit application required proof of contractor licensing and estimated project costs, creating paper trails of their spending. My bank, First National, had handled my family's accounts for over 15 years. Mrs. Henderson, the branch manager, remembered me from childhood visits with Mom. When I requested information about where my rent payments were deposited, she initially hesitated due to privacy policies. "Fred, I've watched you grow up, so I'll share what I can legally tell you," she said, consulting her computer screen. "Your payments went into a separate savings account, not your parents' primary checking account. That account has accumulated substantial funds over time." The revelation hit like physical blow. My money hadn't been mixed with family finances to cover household expenses. Instead, my parents had created a dedicated savings account funded entirely by my rent payments. They'd segregated my contributions while claiming financial need, demonstrating premeditated deception rather than temporary hardship. Mrs. Henderson's professional discretion prevented sharing specific balances, but her expression suggested significant accumulated funds. "I probably shouldn't say this, but your parents opened that account specifically for rental income when you started paying them. The account name is Fred Rental Income Fund." The name proved intentionality. My parents hadn't accidentally accumulated my money, they'd deliberately created a profit center from my housing needs. They'd treated their son like a tenant, while maintaining emotional manipulation about family sacrifice and financial assistance. Walking back to Jake's apartment, I called Marcus with the bank information. His investigation had uncovered additional troubling details about my parents' property investments. The rental duplex is generating monthly income of $3,200, Marcus explained. They're cash flowing $400 monthly after expenses building equity and claiming tax benefits. Meanwhile, they convinced you they needed financial help. This is systematic fraud, Fred. They've been playing poverty while building a real estate portfolio. That evening, I created comprehensive financial analysis, comparing my parents' claims versus their documented activities. The spreadsheet revealed a family that had increased their net worth by hundreds of thousands of dollars. During the same period, they'd claimed financial hardship, property appreciation, rental income, and business success, painted a picture of economic prosperity rather than struggle. The emotional impact felt worse than financial loss. My parents had stolen 3 years of my life, manipulating my love and loyalty to fund their secret wealth-building strategy. They damaged my trust in family relationships while positioning themselves as generous providers rather than calculating exploiters. Jake found me at his kitchen table at midnight, surrounded by documents and printouts. "You look like you've seen a ghost," he said, sitting down across from me. "Worse," I replied. "I've seen the truth." Sarah's pregnancy announcement had seemed rushed, almost defensive, when she delivered the room renovation news. Something about her timing and demeanor felt rehearsed, like she'd practiced the conversation multiple times. The more I reflected on our interaction, the more questions arose about this mysterious baby requiring my childhood bedroom. My sister had always been transparent about her life plans. At 28, she'd been focused on advancing her marketing career and exploring new relationship possibilities after ending a 2-year engagement 6 months earlier. Sudden pregnancy would represent a dramatic life change she'd never mentioned or hinted at during family gatherings. Surveillance felt uncomfortable, but answers required investigation. I followed Sarah's daily routine from Jake's apartment, observing her activities without confrontation. Her schedule included regular appointments at the Westside Medical Building, but her behavior suggested something other than prenatal care. Tuesday morning revealed the truth. Sarah entered the medical building, But instead of the obstetrics wing, she headed toward the family counseling center. Through careful observation, I confirmed she was attending therapy sessions, not doctor's appointments. She emerged from appointments looking emotionally drained rather than glowing with pregnancy excitement. Casual conversations with family friends required delicate questioning about Sarah's supposed pregnancy. Mrs. Patterson, our longtime neighbor, expressed confusion when I mentioned becoming an uncle soon. "And Uncle Sarah's pregnant," Mrs. Patterson asked, genuine surprise in her voice. "I just saw her last week and she mentioned focusing on career goals. Pregnancy would certainly change those plans." Similar conversations with other family connections revealed consistent patterns. Nobody had heard pregnancy announcements from Sarah, no excitement about upcoming grandchildren, no discussions about baby preparations or nursery planning. The supposed pregnancy existed only within our immediate family narrative. My investigation strategy shifted toward direct observation. I spent 3 days watching our family home from various parking spots, documenting visitor patterns and delivery activities. The contractor's truck arrived punctually each morning, but other vehicles also made regular stops. A medical supply company delivered equipment typically associated with elderly care rather than infant needs. I photographed the delivery truck and researched the company's specialties: mobility aids, hospital beds, and pregnancy support equipment for older mothers. The timeline created disturbing possibilities about who actually needed the bedroom renovation. Grandmother Helen lived in the senior community across town, but had maintained close relationships with my parents throughout their marriage. Her Wednesday afternoon bridge club provided perfect cover for visiting without arousing suspicion. I arrived with flowers and apologies for staying away so long. Helen's small apartment felt warm with familiar smells of lavender and fresh coffee. She welcomed me enthusiastically, always happy to see her grandchildren. After settling into comfortable conversation, I carefully broached the subject of family changes. "Grandma Helen, I heard there might be a new addition to the family soon," I said, studying her reaction carefully. Sarah seems excited about the baby. Helen's expression shifted from confusion to concern, then resignation. She set down her coffee cup with shaking hands and looked directly at me. "Fred, honey, Sarah isn't pregnant, your mother is." The words hit like a physical blow. My 48-year-old mother was pregnant after years of fertility treatments, information carefully hidden from me during months of supposed financial hardship. The room renovation wasn't for a grandchild, it was preparing a nursery for my parents' unexpected late-in-life pregnancy. "She's almost 5 months along," Helen continued, her voice heavy with disapproval. "They've spent thousands on fertility treatments using money from somewhere. I told Bob this was foolish at their age, but Linda was determined to have another baby." The financial pieces clicked into devastating place. My rent money had funded not just property investments, but expensive medical procedures for my parents' secret pregnancy dream. They'd used my housing payments to pursue fertility treatments while claiming financial hardship and manipulating my emotions about family loyalty. "They swore everyone to secrecy," Helen explained. "Said they wanted to surprise you after the baby was born, but Fred, what they're doing isn't right. They've been planning to ask you to move out once the baby comes. Your rent money is supposed to become the college fund." The plan's calculated cruelty took my breath away. My parents had engineered my financial contribution to fund their secret pregnancy, then planned to evict me to make room for their new child. My accumulated rent payments would become their baby's college fund, while I started over from nothing. Helen reached across the small table and took my hands. "There's something else, honey. Something worse. They've been telling family members that you're living with them rent-free, that you're financially irresponsible, and depending on their generosity." The final betrayal felt complete. My parents hadn't just stolen money, they'd systematically destroyed my reputation within our extended family. Relatives believed I was a mooch, living off parental charity, when I'd actually been subsidizing my parents' lifestyle and secret dreams. "Aunt Carol thinks you're taking advantage of Bob and Linda's kindness," Helen continued. Uncle Dave mentioned his concern about your lack of independence. They've convinced everyone you're the problem child who won't grow up. I sat in Helen's apartment processing the scope of deception. My parents had created an elaborate fiction that positioned them as long-suffering providers, while portraying me as an irresponsible dependent. Family members who might have supported me believed their manipulated narrative about my character and circumstances. The drive back to Jake's apartment felt surreal. 3 years of believing I was helping struggling parents had actually funded their secret fertility journey and wealth accumulation. They'd planned my eviction while damaging my reputation, ensuring family support would favor them during any future conflicts. That evening, I called Marcus with the pregnancy revelation. His investigative background helped me understand the legal implications of systematic financial deception, combined with character assassination within family networks. "Fred, this is worse than simple fraud," Marcus said. "They've created a conspiracy that includes multiple forms of manipulation: financial exploitation, false representation, and reputation damage. You need serious legal advice immediately." The emotional weight felt overwhelming. My family had betrayed me in ways I'd never imagined possible, using love and loyalty as weapons against my financial security and social standing. The pregnancy secret explained their urgency about room renovation, but it also revealed the depth of their calculated deception. Sleep came fitfully that night, filled with dreams about the brother or sister I'd never known was coming, and the parents who'd become strangers wearing familiar faces. Attorney David Patterson's office occupied the 15th floor of downtown's most prestigious legal building, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city where my parents had systematically defrauded me. Marcus had recommended Patterson based on his reputation for handling complex family financial disputes with aggressive precision. Patterson reviewed my documentation with the methodical attention of someone who'd seen similar deceptions before: bank records, property purchases, contractor invoices, and testimony from family members created a comprehensive picture of calculated fraud spanning 3 years. Or, "Mr. Williams, what your parents have done constitutes multiple violations of civil law," Patterson explained, spreading documents across his mahogany conference table. "Fraudulent misrepresentation of financial condition, breach of implied contract regarding rent payments, and potential criminal conspiracy to defraud. The pregnancy secrecy adds emotional damages to your financial losses." The attorney's analysis revealed legal options I hadn't considered: my rent payments made under false pretenses about family financial hardship created contractual relationships with specific obligations. My parents had violated those obligations by using the money for purposes directly contradicting their stated needs. "The property purchases are particularly damaging to their defense," Patterson continued. "They claimed financial hardship while simultaneously investing in real estate using your payments. That demonstrates consciousness of wrongdoing and premeditated deception." Patterson's firm had handled similar cases involving family members who exploited relatives through false financial narratives. Success rates were high when documentation supported claims of systematic deception, as mine clearly did. "We can pursue full recovery of your payments plus interest, legal fees, and punitive damages for emotional distress," Patterson explained. "The pregnancy secrecy and reputation damage strengthen your case significantly. Judges don't look favorably on parents who manipulate their children's finances while damaging their social standing." The legal strategy involved multiple approaches: civil litigation for financial recovery, potential criminal referral for fraud, and family court intervention to establish accurate financial disclosure requirements. Patterson's aggressive reputation would pressure my parents towards settlement, rather than risking trial exposure. "Before we proceed, I need you to understand the family implications," Patterson warned. "Legal action will permanently alter your relationships. Some family members might choose sides based on their interpretation of events. Are you prepared for that possibility?" The question forced difficult reflection. My parents had already destroyed family trust through their deceptions. legal action would simply make the damage public, rather than allowing continued manipulation. I'd lost my family the moment they chose profit over integrity. That afternoon, I returned to Jake's apartment and began comprehensive documentation of every detail I could remember about 3 years of financial manipulation. Phone calls with bank representatives, photographs of my parents' luxury purchases, and recorded conversations with family members who'd confirmed various aspects of the deception. Marcus arrived with additional research about my parents' business activities. Williams Construction had secured contracts worth over $500,000 during the period of supposed financial hardship. Tax returns available through court subpoena would likely reveal income levels completely contradicting their poverty claims. "There's something else," Marcus said, consulting his notes. "I ran checks on their credit applications for the rental property purchase. They listed your rent payments as income on their mortgage application, claiming you as a tenant rather than their son. That's bank fraud, if they misrepresented the source of income." The revelation added another dimension to their deception. My parents had legally positioned me as a tenant when convenient for loan applications, while emotionally manipulating me as a family member when collecting payments. They'd exploited both relationships simultaneously for maximum financial advantage. Evening brought a crucial phone call from Patterson's office. His paralegal had discovered additional information through property records research. "Mr. Williams, your parents attempted to add your sister Sarah's name to the rental property deed yesterday," the paralegal reported. "They're trying to transfer ownership to avoid potential asset seizure. This demonstrates consciousness of guilt and strengthens your case dramatically." The attempted asset transfer proved my parents understood legal vulnerability. They were preparing to hide wealth acquired through my payments before potential litigation could claim those assets. Patterson advised immediate action to prevent further financial maneuvering. "And we need to file emergency motions tomorrow to freeze their assets pending resolution," Patterson explained during our evening conference call. "Their attempt to transfer property ownership shows they're aware of potential claims and are taking steps to avoid accountability." The legal machinery felt overwhelming, but necessary. My parents had created this situation through systematic deception, and only legal intervention could prevent continued manipulation. They'd escalated beyond family dispute into criminal territory with their asset concealment attempts. Sleep came easier that night knowing professional advocates were preparing to challenge my parents' deception. 3 years of financial manipulation was approaching its conclusion regardless of family emotional costs. Truth and accountability would finally emerge from their web of lies and calculated exploitation. Patterson's legal team arrived at my parents' house on Thursday morning with formal documents that would shatter their carefully constructed deception. I watched from my rental car across the street as the process server approached the front door carrying papers that would force confrontation they'd spent years avoiding. Mom answered the door in her bathrobe, her pregnancy beginning to show despite her attempts to hide the condition. The process server's professional explanation of legal documents transformed her expression from confusion to panic. She called for Dad, who emerged from the kitchen wearing work clothes, and an expression that quickly shifted from annoyance to alarm. 20 minutes later, I approached the house with Patterson beside me, ready to present evidence and demand immediate accounting of all rental payments. The confrontation felt inevitable, after months of systematic deception. But facing my parents as legal adversaries, rather than family members, created emotional complexity I hadn't anticipated. Dad opened the door with aggressive defensiveness, his face flushed with anger and indignation. "Fred, what the hell is this about legal papers? Have you lost your mind?" Mr. Williams, I'm attorney Patterson representing your son's interests," Patterson began with professional courtesy. "We're here to discuss 3 years of fraudulent misrepresentation regarding your financial condition and the misappropriation of rental payments made under false pretenses." Mom appeared behind Dad, tears streaming down her face as she clutched her robe protectively over her hidden pregnancy. "Fred, honey, why are you doing this to your family?" We've given you everything, supported you through college, provided a home when you needed it. The conversation moved to their living room, where Patterson spread documentation across the coffee table with methodical precision. Bank records, property purchase documents, contractor invoices, and fertility clinic payments created an undeniable timeline of deception and wealth accumulation. Your son paid $93,600 in rental payments based on your claims of financial hardship, Patterson explained. During that same period, you purchased investment property, funded fertility treatments, and completed luxury home improvements. This constitutes fraud under California Civil Code. Dad's response revealed the depth of his self-justification. That money was legitimate rent for services provided. Fred lived here, used utilities, ate our food. We provided value for his payments. There's nothing fraudulent about charging rent to adult children. The fraud lies in your misrepresentation of purpose, Patterson countered. You claimed financial need while actually building wealth. You used emotional manipulation to inflate rental rates while secretly accumulating funds for personal investments. The pregnancy secret emerged during heated exchanges when Mom's defensive arguments became increasingly emotional. Her protective hand gestures over her belly, combined with references to the baby's future, revealed the truth they'd hidden for months. "You're pregnant?" I said, the words hanging in the air like an accusation. "This whole time you've been pregnant, and you let me believe Sarah was having a baby." Mom's tears intensified as she nodded reluctantly. "We wanted to surprise you after the birth. We thought you'd be excited about having a little brother or sister." "Excited?" My voice cracked with emotion. "You've been planning to evict me to make room for your baby while using my money to pay for fertility treatments. How is any of that exciting?" The confrontation escalated when Patterson presented evidence of their attempted asset transfer to Sarah. Dad's face reddened with indignation as he realized the extent of our investigation. "You've been spying on us, investigating your own family like criminals?" Dad's voice carried moral outrage that felt particularly offensive given their systematic deception. "You've been lying to me for 3 years while stealing my money," I responded. "Investigation was necessary to uncover the truth you've been hiding." Sarah arrived during the heated exchange, summoned by frantic phone calls from our parents. Her entrance created additional tension as she witnessed the legal confrontation she'd inadvertently triggered with her room renovation announcement. "Fred, please, can't we work this out as a family?" Sarah pleaded, positioning herself between opposing sides. "Legal action will destroy everything we've built together." "They already destroyed it," I replied, gesturing toward the evidence spread across the coffee table. 3 years of lies and financial manipulation destroyed our family. I'm just making it official. Patterson's presentation continued methodically despite emotional interruptions. Property records, business contracts, and bank statements painted an undeniable picture of systematic deception. My parents' claims of financial hardship evaporated under documentary evidence of prosperity and calculated wealth building. The climactic moment arrived when Dad's anger overwhelmed his caution. Frustrated by Patterson's relentless evidence presentation, he exploded with unguarded truth. "Fine, we used his money for investments. We've been planning his eviction for months. The kid needed to grow up and move out anyway. We talked to lawyers about tenant removal procedures weeks ago." The admission hung in the air like a confession. Patterson smiled slightly as he noted the spontaneous acknowledgement of premeditated fraud and conspiracy. Dad's angry honesty had provided crucial evidence of intentional wrongdoing. "Mr. Williams, you've just admitted to fraudulent misrepresentation and conspiracy to commit tenant fraud," Patterson observed. "Your son's payments were obtained under false pretenses with planned eviction as the ultimate goal. That's criminal behavior." Mom collapsed into her chair, sobbing, as she realized the legal implications of Dad's outburst. Sarah stared at our parents with expressions of betrayal and disappointment, understanding for the first time the calculated nature of their deception. The confrontation concluded with Patterson's demand for immediate asset freeze and full financial disclosure. My parents had 48 hours to provide complete documentation of all funds derived from my rental payments, plus detailed accounting of how those funds had been utilized. Failure to comply will result in emergency court intervention and potential criminal referral, Patterson warned before gathering his documents. Your son has been extraordinarily patient given the scope of your deception. Walking away from my childhood home felt like leaving a crime scene. The house where I'd grown up had become the site of systematic financial fraud perpetrated by the people who'd raised me to value honesty and integrity. The irony felt crushing. That evening, Sarah called my phone repeatedly before finally reaching me at Jake's apartment. Her voice carried genuine remorse and confusion about our parents' behavior. "Fred, I'm so sorry. I had no idea they were lying about everything. The pregnancy, the money, the planned eviction. I feel sick knowing I helped them manipulate you." Her apology felt genuine, but the damage extended beyond individual relationships. My parents had corrupted family dynamics through systematic deception, making every interaction suspect and every memory questionable. Trust once broken so completely might never heal entirely. The legal papers served that morning would force accountability, but they couldn't restore the innocent family relationships we'd all lost through calculated betrayal and financial exploitation. Patterson's emergency motion hearing was scheduled for Friday morning in Superior Court, with Judge Martinez presiding over asset freeze requests and preliminary injunction proceedings. The speed of legal action reflected the severity of attempted asset concealment and the strength of evidence supporting fraud claims. My parents arrived at court with their hastily retained attorney, James Richardson, whose reputation for defending questionable business practices made him an obvious choice for desperate circumstances. Richardson's client consultation occurred in courthouse hallways, suggesting minimal preparation time for complex financial fraud allegations. Judge Martinez reviewed Patterson's comprehensive evidence presentation with careful attention to detail. Bank records, property transfers, business income documentation, and recorded admissions created an overwhelming case for immediate asset protection pending full trial resolution. "Mr. Richardson, how does your client explain property transfers occurring immediately after legal papers were served?" Judge Martinez inquired with skeptical curiosity. "The timing suggests consciousness of legal vulnerability." Richardson's response revealed the weakness of my parents' legal position. "Your Honor, my clients were simply updating estate planning documents as responsible parents preparing for a new child's arrival. Estate planning that coincidentally removes assets from potential creditor reach." Judge Martinez's tone carried judicial skepticism about such convenient timing. "The court finds clear evidence of asset concealment attempts." The judge granted comprehensive asset freezing orders preventing my parents from selling, transferring, or significantly altering any property acquired during the 3-year period of my rental payments. Bank accounts, investment properties, and business assets would remain under court supervision pending resolution. Outside the courthouse, my parents attempted reconciliation through Sarah's intervention. She arranged a coffee shop meeting where emotions could be discussed away from legal formalities and attorney supervision. "Fred, please consider dropping the legal action." Mom pleaded her pregnancy, now visible, without concealing clothing. "We're family. We can work this out together without destroying our relationships forever." "You destroyed our relationship when you decided to lie and steal from me." I responded, struggling to balance anger with residual family love. 3 years of deception isn't a mistake, it's a systematic betrayal. Dad's approach focused on minimizing their actions through comparison with worse parental behavior. "At least we didn't abandon you or refuse to help when you needed us. We provided a home and family support during difficult economic times." "You provided a home that I paid market rent for while lying about your financial condition," I corrected. "You created artificial family support while actually profiting from my housing needs." The conversation revealed my parents' fundamental inability to acknowledge wrongdoing. They viewed their actions as shrewd financial planning rather than fraudulent exploitation. Their moral framework allowed family manipulation if it served long-term family wealth building. Sarah's role as mediator proved difficult as evidence clearly supported my position. She'd been manipulated as thoroughly as me believing stories about family financial hardship while watching our parents accumulate wealth and luxury possessions. What they did was wrong, Sarah finally admitted. But Fred, they're still our parents. They're having a baby. Can't we find some way to resolve this without destroying the family? The family was already destroyed by their choices, I replied. I'm just refusing to pretend everything's normal while they continue lying and stealing. The meeting concluded without resolution, but my parents' demeanor suggested growing awareness of legal vulnerability. Patterson's aggressive approach and strong evidence had eliminated their assumption that family relationships would protect them from accountability. Monday brought devastating revelations from Patterson's expanded investigation. Court-ordered financial discovery had revealed additional fraudulent activities beyond my rental payment exploitation. Fred, your parents' tax returns show significant underreporting of business income, Patterson explained during our office consultation. They've been claiming poverty for tax purposes while actually earning substantial profits. The IRS will be very interested in these discrepancies. The contractor payment controversy reached resolution when Williams Renovation Company filed mechanics liens against my parents' properties for unpaid services. The contractor, Tony Williams, no relation to my family, had completed $35,000 in renovation work without receiving promised payments. Your parents told us the money was coming from their son's savings account, Tony explained during Patterson's deposition preparation. They showed us bank statements proving available funds, then refused payment when we completed the work. The contractor's testimony provided additional evidence of fraud and added credible witnesses to support my legal claims. Tony's company had relied on fraudulent financial representations, creating grounds for criminal charges beyond civil recovery. Patterson's investigation uncovered systematic manipulation extending beyond my rental payments. Business associates, contractors, and service providers had all been deceived by fabricated financial hardship stories, while my parents accumulated wealth and made luxury purchases. Your parents have been running confidence schemes on multiple fronts, Patterson explained, using sympathy and false poverty claims to manipulate payment terms, secure favorable contracts, and avoid financial obligations. This is organized criminal activity. The scope of deception felt overwhelming. My parents hadn't just betrayed me, they'd been systematically defrauding anyone willing to trust their fabricated financial narratives. Family manipulation was simply their most successful and long-term fraud operation. Thursday's settlement conference brought all parties together for mandatory mediation before trial proceedings. Patterson had prepared comprehensive demands, including full payment recovery interest legal fees and punitive damages totaling over $150,000. My parents' attorney requested private consultation before responding to settlement terms. Their whispered conversations suggested serious consideration of agreement rather than risking trial exposure of additional fraudulent activities. Mr. Patterson Richardson announced after extensive client consultation, my clients are prepared to discuss resolution terms that acknowledge the disputed nature of rental payment arrangements. The careful language avoided admission of wrongdoing while opening negotiations for financial settlement. My parents' legal position had deteriorated sufficiently to force realistic consideration of accountability rather than continued denial. Settlement discussions continued into evening hours, as both sides calculated costs of continued litigation versus immediate resolution. My parents' exposure to criminal charges and IRS investigation created powerful incentives for rapid agreement. The tentative settlement required full repayment of rental funds, plus interest, legal fees, and house down payment assistance totaling $125,000. My parents would sell their rental property to fund the agreement, destroying their wealth-building strategy while providing my financial freedom. The settlement papers were signed on a gray Tuesday morning in Patterson's conference room, bringing legal conclusion to 3 years of systematic family deception. My parents sat across the mahogany table looking defeated and aged their dreams of property, wealth dissolved by accountability for fraudulent manipulation. $125,000 would transfer to my account within 30 days, requiring them to sell the rental duplex they'd purchased using my money. The irony felt appropriate. Their investment property funded through my exploitation would provide my independence and financial fresh start. Additional settlement terms required my parents to attend court-ordered financial counseling and family therapy sessions. Judge Martinez had insisted on educational components to address the underlying attitudes that enabled their fraudulent behavior toward family members. Mom approached me after a document signing with tearful attempts at reconciliation. Her pregnancy was now unmistakable at 7 months, creating visual reminder of the secret that had motivated my room eviction and their desperate need for renovation funding. "Fred, I hope someday you can forgive us," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. "We never meant to hurt you. We thought we were building family security for everyone's benefit." The apology felt insufficient given years of calculated deception, but I recognized genuine remorse beneath her emotional distress. Pregnancy complications had emerged during recent weeks, possibly stress-related, adding medical concerns to their financial problems. "I hope the baby is healthy," I replied honestly, "but forgiveness will take time. You'll need to prove through consistent behavior that you've learned from these mistakes." Dad's response was characteristically stubborn, maintaining defensive positions about rental payment legitimacy, while acknowledging tactical errors in communication and transparency. His inability to fully accept responsibility suggested limited prospects for genuine relationship repair. Sarah's presence during settlement proceedings demonstrated her commitment to family healing, despite the painful revelations about our parents' character. She'd served as character witness during mediation, confirming my reliability and generosity throughout the deception period. "I'm proud of you for standing up to them," Sarah told me privately. "It took courage to challenge family manipulation even when you knew it would cause permanent damage." The house hunting process began immediately after settlement finalization, focusing on neighborhoods within 30 minutes of my accounting practice clients. $25,000 for down payment plus stable income qualified me for attractive mortgage terms on properties I'd only dreamed about while trapped in family manipulation. The home I selected was a modest 3-bedroom ranch in a quiet subdivision with mature oak trees and a fenced backyard, perfect for future family dreams. The mortgage payment was $800 monthly, less than 1/3 of the rent I'd paid to live under parental control. Closing day arrived 6 weeks later, transforming me from manipulated son to independent homeowner. The keys felt substantial in my hand, representing freedom, purchased through painful confrontation with family betrayal and fraudulent exploitation. Jake helped with moving day-loading furniture and belongings that had been stored in his spare bedroom during months of legal proceedings. His friendship throughout the crisis had provided stability and perspective when family support disappeared entirely. "Man, this place is perfect," Jake observed while carrying boxes through my new front door. "You've gone from paying $2,600 for a childhood bedroom to owning actual property for $800 a month." The mathematics of manipulation became clear in homeowner context. 3 years of excessive rental payments could have purchased this house outright, providing complete financial independence, rather than extended dependence on deceptive family members. 2 months after moving in, I received unexpected visitors when my parents arrived unannounced on a Sunday afternoon. They stood awkwardly on my front porch, Mom holding a small gift bag and Dad carrying what appeared to be a handwritten letter. "We wanted to see your new home," Mom explained nervously, "and to give you something for the baby when he arrives." The baby, my brother, was due within weeks. Despite everything that had happened, I felt curiosity about this new family member who would grow up in the aftermath of our family's financial civil war. We've been attending counseling sessions like the court required, Dad said, his voice lacking its usual defensive edge. Learning about healthy family boundaries and honest communication. We realize we made serious mistakes. The letter contained their acknowledgement of systematic manipulation, an expression of genuine remorse for damage caused to my trust and financial security. While words couldn't restore stolen years or money, their written acceptance of responsibility represented progress toward possible future reconciliation. We're not asking for immediate forgiveness, Mom continued, but we hope someday we can rebuild relationships based on honesty and mutual respect. My response came carefully balancing appropriate caution with recognition of their apparent growth. Relationships will have to be earned back through consistent behavior over time, but I'm willing to see how things develop. The housewarming party Tausend 2 weeks later celebrated more than new home ownership. It represented personal transformation from manipulation victim to confident adult, capable of protecting his interests while maintaining appropriate family boundaries. Friends from college work, colleagues, and supportive family members, including grandmother Helen, gathered in my backyard for barbecue and celebration. The guest list carefully excluded my parents, who were still early in their accountability journey. Helen brought photo albums chronicling my childhood and young adult years, helping create positive memories in my new space. Her presence validated my decision to challenge family manipulation while maintaining connections with relatives who supported honesty and integrity. Your parents are learning slowly, Helen confided during quiet conversation. The baby's arrival has them focused on being better grandparents than they were parents to you. The comment offered hope for eventual family healing, though trust would require years of consistent behavior to rebuild. My parents had damaged relationships through calculated deception, and repair would demand matching commitment to honesty and accountability. Marcus visited the following weekend, reviewing his investigation files and marveling at the resolution's completeness. His professional background in fraud cases provided perspective on typical outcomes compared to my successful recovery. Most family fraud victims never recover anything, Marcus explained. Your documentation and Patterson's aggressive approach created unusual accountability. You should feel proud of forcing justice despite family pressure. The baby arrived 3 weeks later, a healthy boy named Daniel. Sarah called with news and photos describing my parents' overwhelming joy and renewed commitment to honest family relationships. They want you to meet your brother when you're ready, Sarah reported. No pressure, no expectations, just an invitation when the time feels right. Meeting Daniel felt emotionally complex, but ultimately necessary. My brother would grow up in a family altered by confrontation with deception and manipulation. His future relationships with our parents would benefit from lessons learned through painful accountability processes. The first meeting occurred at Sarah's apartment, neutral territory, where emotions could be managed and boundaries maintained. Mom brought Daniel carefully, her face showing exhaustion from new motherhood, combined with ongoing stress from family relationship repairs. Holding my brother created unexpected emotions, love for this innocent child, combined with protective concern about his future, in a family still healing from systematic betrayal. Daniel would never experience the manipulation I'd endured because legal action had forced transparency and accountability. He's beautiful, I told Mom honestly. I hope he grows up in a family that values honesty. He will, Mom replied with quiet determination. We've learned too much about the cost of deception to ever repeat those mistakes. The conversation included careful discussion of future family interactions with clear boundaries about financial relationships and communication expectations. Holiday gatherings and birthday celebrations could resume gradually, but trust would develop slowly through consistent, honest behavior. 6 months later, my life had stabilized into patterns of independence and professional growth. The accounting practice flourished with clients who appreciated honest financial advice from someone who understood manipulation personally. Weekend projects around the house provided satisfaction that rental living had never offered. Painting rooms. Dinchibu's landscaping the yard and planning future improvements created investment in personal space rather than enrichment of deceptive landlords. The settlement money funded not just home ownership, but also emergency savings retirement contributions and professional development opportunities. Financial security built through recovered funds and reduced living expenses provided foundation for long-term goals and dreams. Family relationships evolved slowly toward cautious reconciliation. Monthly dinners at Sarah's apartment allowed gradual rebuilding of connections while maintaining protective boundaries. Daniel's presence added joy to gatherings while serving as a reminder of new family possibilities. My parents' transformation progressed steadily through counseling and accountability measures. They apologized repeatedly for manipulation and deception, demonstrating understanding of damage caused through their systematic betrayal of family trust. "We thought we were being smart about money," Dad explained during one family dinner, "but we were actually destroying the relationships that matter most. No investment is worth losing your children's trust." The reflection period had taught me valuable lessons about self-advocacy, boundary setting, and recognizing manipulation patterns. Family loyalty should never require sacrificing personal financial security or accepting systematic deception as normal behavior. Professional colleagues often asked about my transition from family home to independent ownership. The story became a cautionary tale about family financial boundaries and the importance of trusting instincts when situations feel exploitative. The hardest part was accepting that people I loved were capable of systematic manipulation, I'd explain. But confronting that reality was necessary for both accountability and healing. A year after settlement, I received a handwritten note from Dad acknowledging the anniversary of legal action and expressing continued remorse for choices that necessitated such drastic intervention. "Today marks 1 year since we were forced to confront the truth about our behavior," he wrote. "I'm grateful you had courage to demand accountability, even though it was painful for everyone involved." The note concluded with invitation to Daniel's first birthday celebration, marking how far family relationships had progressed toward healing. While trust remained limited, consistent, honest behavior suggested genuine transformation rather than temporary compliance. The birthday party felt like family gathering rather than strained obligation. My parents interacted with appropriate respect for boundaries while sharing genuine joy about Daniel's development and milestones. Watching Daniel take his first steps in my parents' backyard created hope for family futures, built on honesty rather than manipulation. This child would grow up with financial transparency and clear boundaries, benefiting from lessons learned through painful confrontation with deception. As Daniel grows older, he'll learn about the family crisis that preceded his birth, not as shame, but as evidence that accountability and honest communication can rebuild relationships stronger than their original foundations. Love without honesty creates vulnerability to exploitation, but love with accountability creates sustainable family connections. The story ends with gratitude for legal system protection supportive friends who provided shelter during family crisis and personal courage to demand truth despite emotional costs. Family relationships are precious, but they must be based on mutual respect and honesty rather than manipulation and exploitation. Have you ever experienced family financial manipulation? Or do you know someone who has struggled with setting boundaries with relatives who exploited their generosity? Share your thoughts in the comments about how families can balance support with healthy financial boundaries. If this story resonated with you, please like this video to help others who might be facing similar situations. Subscribe for more stories about overcoming family challenges and personal growth through difficult circumstances. And please share this with anyone who might benefit from hearing about the importance of financial boundaries and self-advocacy within family relationships. Thank you for listening to this journey of discovering truth, demanding accountability, and ultimately building healthier family connections based on honesty and mutual respect.